So let's talk about Jupiter retrograde. We know it stationed retrograde a couple days ago. I think it was Wednesday. I personally have been struggling with this one quite a bit. So Jupiter is the planet of growth and expansion. You'll hear a lot of people call it the planet of luck, but that really only applies to people that have a well-aspected and well-placed Jupiter. Those of us that have, a harshly aspected one, we know that Jupiter can be one dramatic asshole sometimes, okay? So a lot of how it plays out for you is going to depend on your natal chart. Now, anytime that a planet stations retrograde, it goes from being active and pushing its energy out into the world to being more receptive and inward. So there's going to be a lot of like shutting down when it comes to communication, because Gemini does like to communicate. Now Jupiter and Gemini does like to keep things a little on that surface level, light and fun type of energy rather than a more in-depth type of energy. But you always want to pay attention to where the ruling planet is of that sign as well. In this case, that would be Mercury. Right now it is in Libra, so this is about relationships and partnerships, your closest friendships, how you're communicating with other people. It's about to move into Scorpio, so things could begin getting intense over the I believe it's Sunday that it moves into Scorpio. So next week things could begin getting very intense when it comes to communication. Now, with Jupiter being retrograde and that energy turning inward, there's a real possibility of getting stuck in your head. So what we're going to see is all of that communicating that you've been doing outwardly, you've been trying to speak, you've been trying to say what you need to say. Now you're going to be in your head about it. Now you're going to be thinking it through. Anytime a planet is retrograde, there's going to be a tie to the past as well, because it is backtracking to the things that have been happening during this trek. It stations direct on February 4th at 11 degrees. So anything that happened between like mid-July, the last time it was at 11 degrees, until now is where you're going to start seeing some kind of review, conversations that you've had during that time. Any place where maybe you've been avoiding actually digging to the root of a problem, that could be coming back up and forcing you to actually dig into it. Any place that you've been gossiping or other people have been gossiping, like those are things that are going to kind of come back to bite people during this time. Another thing that you're going to see happen is wherever you have been having like growth and expansion in your life, wherever it's transiting in your chart, you're going to see that growth and expansion slow down, pretty much halt, right? Don't fight against that. It's really more about making sure that you are slowing down, because Jupiter does expand things so quickly. Oftentimes you miss things, you miss the details, you miss the maybe parts of the conversation just slipped right past you, and now you got to come back and go, wait a minute, did they say this and I didn't hear it, or something along those lines. So that's always about a review. It's about turning inward. And in this case, because of it being Gemini, it's about your thought processes and your ideas, the way you're communicating, how the conversations that you've had. And it can be quite intense because Jupiter does not like being in Gemini. It is very uncomfortable there, and it can get a little too much in your head, okay? So really during this time, we need to make sure that we're taking good care of our mental health, and we're slowing down and working through things just one piece at a time. Don't try to take on everything at once. You have to be really conscious of how you are behaving when a planet is in its detriment or its fall in the first place, or when it's harshly aspected. And then once it turns retrograde, you have to be even more self-aware of that, just to make sure that you're handling it in the best ways possible. So with Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, it's a little Virgo-ish, but we want to make sure that we're not getting lost in the anxiety that can come up. I know since it's stationed retrograde for me, my anxiety kind of did shoot up quite a bit. But you really might see some backtracking in that area of life. You might have to review some things, some of your ideas, review some of the conversations that have been had, and really make sure that you're digging into the details of it without overwhelming yourself, and pay attention to where Mercury is during this time as well, so that you can work with it in a better way. Again, Mercury will be moving into Scorpio, so you might be reviewing trauma, and which is not a bad thing. It can be a good thing. This is a perfect opportunity to really dig in and work on your stuff, and try your best to get past it so that we can move forward as other planets start to turn direct over these next few months as well. So the one thing that's going to happen right around Christmas time is Jupiter will square Saturn again. If you remember that full moon that happened back in August 19th, that was the last time that we saw Jupiter in a square with Saturn. There could be something that comes up that really kind of shifts the way that you're seeing things, the way that you're thinking about things. I know that full moon was actually very enlightening for me. Really showed me some of my like trauma triggers that I've been working on ever since. So definitely during this time, slow down, slow your mind down, consciously pay attention to where your mind is wandering to, and do your best to work with that as best as possible. If you are looking to see how it's going to affect you, I do have $20 mini readings that are done via DM or email. Preferably would prefer payment in Cash App as of right now, but they can be ordered on my website as well. Send me a message if you're wanting to do those, and we can look at how Jupiter retrograde is going to affect you on an individual level, where it's happening in your chart, how your natal Jupiter and your natal Mercury work together as well to help you kind of navigate it best for you as an individual.